Sharing is caring. Currently, there are people outside doing yard work in 90-degree heat. My HOA pays for it, and it's almost always a new group of men who do it. Today, most of them are wearing the company sweatshirts or t-shirts. Sweatshirts at 90-degree heat? Oof. I happen to walk out to my car to grab something, and a few are sitting around my stairs in the little shade we have on my street. They apologize and go to stand. I tell them they're totally okay. As I'm coming back, one man quietly asks if he can use my hose to refill his water bottle. I of course tell them to just wait a moment and bring out some of my glasses and my pitcher of cold filtered water. One younger kid starts to tear up. He had asked someone down the street if he could use their hose, and the owner of the house yelled at them, telling them to just do their job and get out of their yard. Not only is the UV index currently very high, but my area is also under an air quality warning, and it feels 10 degrees hotter than it really is. It's just water. It took me 3 minutes, if that, and they were all very grateful. Brought my cups back up to my door and continued their work. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Jon. Today we're taking a look at Entitled People, if you couldn't tell already. By the way, in case you haven't noticed, there's a cat back here. Yeah, that cat. Right, Nickel? It's amazing. I try to fix the blinds so that they're nice and straight at least. I know light's going to leak around them. I don't have perfectly covered windows, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it drives me nuts. Like, this one back here is totally out of whack. That's those two little turds sticking their heads in there and pulling them up, pulling them down, whatever, and I don't know. Life with cats. What are you going to do? As for the story about the guys working in 90-degree plus heat, if they had taken advantage of the lady and started using her hose without asking, I don't know. I got mixed feelings on it. I've done it in the past. There have been times when I needed to refill my water bottle or something, and there was a hose on a property where I was working, and I used their hose to fill my water jug. I'm not sure what kind of neighborhood this is, if they're, mowing all the lawns like in a townhouse or condominium development, where you do all the common areas. I'm not sure, but the guy asked. It takes nothing actually, because basically he would just be using the hose without your help. As far as the sitting in the shade on your steps, again, this seems like kind of one of those developments or something where, they're common areas, sorta. I don't know. I don't see any harm in it. The guys were doing work. They weren't going to be there that long. Now, if they started camping out and making themselves at home without asking anybody anything, it gets a little weird, but still. I mean, it's hot. They're doing a service. Let them do it. Let them get the shade. Let them get the water. It's not that big a deal. Hello? Are you feeling needy? Oh dear. All right, are we going to settle down up here, or that's not yours? Let's go over here. Oh, you almost fell off the damn desk. Good for you. All right, next story. Mom said she couldn't bear to see the sight of me because I didn't find a job yet. This just happened in the afternoon. Mom cooked it. Stop picking my damn chair. This just happened in the afternoon. Mom cooked a nice dinner, so I thought it's going to be a chilled family time with her and my little bro. Then she starts shouting at me because I can't get a job. She said that every day since she got back from China, and it's only been a week. She then called me a lowlife because I'm driving around my dad's car. There's nothing wrong with it. My brother recently had to fix his car for around 1.2k pounds, and they bought him the car a couple years ago. They never bought me a car even though I'm the eldest and have done more work for them in their previous takeaway. I asked her, how am I a lowlife? She says, because everyone's driving about new cars around the area. So I kept repeating, like, who? Who's driving new cars? She's trying to ignore that question by lambasting me about not having a job. She then says, you need to get a job because I've looked after you for 18 years of your life, so I want you to use some of your paycheck on me. So then I replied, did you forget that I helped you from the age of 10 to 21 working in your takeaway from Thursday to Sunday and from 4:30 p.m. to 9ish most of the time? I'm one of the ones who sorted out getting new contracts for the bills, the council tax, and also I went to numerous of your hospital appointments and translated for you. Her English isn't that good. She doesn't reply to that. Then she says, you're meant to be getting gifts for me. So I said, I do. When I came back from Scotland, I brought you some shortbread. She says, you didn't. So I asked my brother. To his credit, he whispered, you brought back some Scottish biscuits. So I said, see, I did bring you back a gift. Then she says, well, I didn't eat any of them. Finally, she says to me, when I'm done handling the business with the takeaway, I'm going back to China for a long time because I can't bear the sight of you. I replied, well, You got a hospital appointment in 2 weeks, so you can take yourself down and translate for yourself. I'll probably still take her, but I'll ask her before. Am I useless and can you bear the sight of me before I drive her down in the old car? I can't believe she said all this to me with everything I've done for our family. Besides, I spent around 1.5 years renovating our current house with my dad. My little brother also helped, but not nearly as much as I did. All the hate is directed at me. I'm happy that my brother doesn't get as much hate as me from my mom. Oh, here comes the other one. It never fails. Oh, well, I guess I'm going to talk through the cat. Why are you sniffing my keyboard? It's weird. Yeah, I don't understand. Some of it is her entitlement and just being spoiled in some way, shape, or form. Some of it, I think, is cultural. That, you know, the parents expect certain things of the kids. The moms expect certain things of the kids. Now, it didn't say anything in the story about it, but it almost sounds like there's only 3 of them. So did dad pass? Did dad stay in China? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. They have a takeaway business. They talk about dad's old car, but he only talked about 3 of them sitting down to enjoy a dinner. So it sounds almost like dad passed and mom was expecting you to just like basically be able to take over that role somehow and step up to his caliber of working and whatever. I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with driving an old car. My current vehicle is almost 20 years old. My last vehicle was over 22 years old. And the only reason it's gone is because someone sideswiped my son when he was going to work one night. So if it runs and it's solid, then I'd rather have a 20-year-old car with 0 car payments than drive something around that's shiny and new and be in debt forever. Because as soon as you drive off the lot, any car, any lot, the car is going to lose tons of value as soon as you drive off the lot. And you'll never get back what you put into it. So there's that. But yeah, it sounds like it's time for you to just get out on your own. Let mom do her thing. If she wants to talk to you, fine. If you'll accept it. If not, and she keeps, berating you and lambasting. I almost forgot what that word was for a minute. Then, maybe it's just time to disconnect for a while. And I wouldn't totally cut her off. That's kind of a tough thing to do, but definitely get your own space and make a way for yourself without her interference. Every dog in the neighborhood will not be allowed over when I visit. My parents live an 8-hour drive away, so I only see them a few times a year. My mom forgot to tell me she has 2 conferences near me during August. I already had plans to pet sit, and a friend stayed with her dog while mom came for the first visit. No biggie, we have plenty of space because she would rather stay with us than the hotel work pays for. We had a total of 4 humans, 4 large...
Well, what did he say? He should...
4 large breed dogs and 3 cats in my house during this visit. Everyone just left yesterday and today. Dad plans to come during her 2nd conference later this month. Dad had a serious talk with me about how it was rude for me to invite all these people and dogs over when I have mom as company. He had the audacity to say, "You will not be inviting every dog and person in the neighborhood over when I stay there." 1. This is my house and I'm an adult. 2. I can invite whomever I please to my house. 3. You invited yourself over with little notice, which I don't care about, but it means I may already have plans. Number 4. This was planned before I was informed mom would be coming. 5. Mom has stayed with me when I've been pet sitting for dogs before. 6. Dad, you don't get to dictate who and what is at my home. 7. My best friend is totally going to show up with her dog for our cocktail one night. My dad loves her dog and moderately likes my human friend. I think it's hilarious that my dad feels so entitled at my home. Also, a few girlfriends in the neighborhood showed up this past Friday with no notice for cocktails. Guess what? Mom freaking loved it because dad hates company. It was spontaneous and fun. ETA, dad wasn't even here this past week for the chaos. He was making it clear he wouldn't tolerate this when he visits. Also, I'm not annoyed at him. I just think it's ridiculous and wanted to share it with the good people of Reddit. Oh, be honest, you're annoyed with him, and you have every right to be. In my house, I help make the rules. I don't make all the rules because there are other adults here too. My wife is probably the number 1 rule maker. I'm somewhere in 2nd or 3rd, depending on which adult daughter is in the mix at the time. And that's okay. That's the way I've let it be. I haven't pushed, and it's not that big a deal. If they're doing something that's loud and crazy and I don't want to be part of it, or even if it's not crazy, you know what I mean? If there's a lot of people around, I'm not a crowd person necessarily, but if they're doing something like that and I don't feel comfortable, I will just politely excuse myself and go disappear into my room. Or I'll go disappear into the camper, or into the truck, or take a ride somewhere, or whatever. I can be flexible and adjust. When the weather gets colder, maybe I'll go outside and start a fire in the fire pit and just chill out, have a bourbon, smoke a pipe or a cigar. Who knows? But to just, I will not tolerate this. Well, then don't effing tolerate it and just go about your way. It's as simple as that. My friend and her issues with dogs. What is it with people and dogs? I'm a 22-year-old male British man living in the fine town of, Herefordshire? I'm going to say it like that. Known mostly for cows and an army base. Sounds lovely. And my friend is about 3 years older than me. I'll call her M. Em and I have known each other since high school. We were placed in the same special needs unit as we were both on the autism spectrum. Had the same bully, but we didn't speak much until my second year 8 for us fellow Brits, where she showed us a sacred series that bonded us together. A little thing called Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series. No idea. Anyway, we watched that all the time when we had allocated computer time, laughing and going episode to episode. I love binge watching stuff. She left high school about 3 years before me, but she and I swapped numbers to keep in contact. She's the only high school friend I've kept up with over the years, and one of the only friends I made in high school. Every weekend we would call and chat for about an hour. Sometimes we would even go out to eat. Em was a vegetarian, so we usually stuck to familiar places that did pizzas or Italian food. From Pizza Hut to Pizza Express, RIP. This tradition continued through COVID and even up until I got my apprenticeship working for my local NHS hospital. Shortly after, Em and I agreed to meet up on Sunday and go out to eat at one of our local Italian places. We ate in her mom's car because the restaurant was full and had a few loud children. Sensory issues are a bitch sometimes. Afterwards, we went to a chocolate shop for dessert. Here's where things get weird. Em and I show up and there's a man with his dog at the front counter. Now I know a dog in a chocolate place is a recipe for disaster, right? But no, the place we went to had dogs allowed policy, and all the chocolate was boxed up and out of reach, so who am I to say anything? Em, however, sees the dog owner as public enemy number 1 and mutters something to me. "Why does that man have a dog in here?" she said in a very annoyed tone. Before I can stop her, she storms over and begins demanding him to muzzle his dog or keep it outside while he was here. Wow. Something about hair getting in the food? I don't know. The dog looked lovely and well groomed. The man, rightfully annoyed, left before she turned her ire to the cashiers, who explained their dog policy, before she just retreated and went to pick out some chocolate for herself. Now, I didn't say anything initially because I didn't want my friend to perceive it as a challenge, so I just meekly apologized to the cashiers and bought a chocolate sundae before we left. Em started explaining that she believed all dogs were aggressive and could turn at any time, and that their hair could get in the food and trigger allergies, which she had. I just awkwardly explained that he wasn't doing anything wrong and we dropped it. A few weeks later, I had one of my weekly calls with Em. She immediately launched into telling me about another dog story. She was at a garden center with her mother to admire the plants when she saw a dog doing its business. Before the man could even bend over to pick up the doo-doo, she immediately said, "I hope you're going to pick that up." According to my friend, the man chased her around yelling, or something. I don't know how much I trust that, and she had to get away from him in time for her mom to come back from the toilet. At this point, I tried to be blunt and explain that she couldn't just go around ordering people how to raise their dogs, and that dogs are only aggressive if the owners are bad, abusive people. For context, my family have owned 4 dogs over the time I've been alive, including a German Shepherd, infamously one of the most aggressive dog breeds people think of. He was a lovely, protected friend who we eventually gave to a new home, for no bad reasons, mind you. Additionally, Em said that the dog feces are toxic to plants, and I tried to explain that they weren't any more than human excrement. And while it is true that some dog owners don't clean up, most do. She kept trying to double down, and I just said I was ending the call early. I needed a break from her and to ask my mom what to do next. We do eventually get back in contact, and she apologizes. I just say to not bring up dog-related incidents to me because I will no longer be getting involved. The reason I bring this up now is because Em recently reached out to meet up again. Our regular haunt might be closing down soon, so she wants to go for old time's sake. Mom and I were talking this morning about her past behavior, and at work I thought about it. I told my mom that if she tried to pull something, I would intervene once more, ask her to stop, and if she didn't, I would call my parents to go right back home, and probably just to say to her that I need a break. It's probably not as flashy as other posts on here, but I just figured I'd air this to get it out of my system. Thanks for reading. Well, OP, you sound very confident, level-headed, reasonable. I see nothing wrong with what you did or said. You didn't want to challenge your friend in public the first time. So, you just kind of tried to cover her trail of disaster there and just let things slide and try to play mediator maybe until you guys were alone, which is a good way to handle things. You wait until, you're not in front of a crowd and that kind of stuff. Unless it's warranted. If they keep doing things like that, then eventually people need to be called out for their BS. It just is what it is. Your friend, however, I'm not sure if she's entitled or not. And, when people are on the spectrum, I think sometimes things are drilled into their heads so hard when they're younger. A lot of times there's parents who have issues with dogs, dog hair, dog feces, dog dander, their aggression, meaning like they jump on you to greet you and they get so overexcited. And, a lot of dogs aren't taught manners. Half of my dogs don't have any damn manners when it comes to greeting new people at the door, or people that they just saw 5 minutes ago for that matter. But there are loving dogs, and we try to discourage the jumping on people. But other than that, they're allowed on most of the furniture except the new couch. And they're just part of the family. They are who they are. It is what it is. Same with the cats. It seems like either some dog incident traumatized her when she was younger, or the parents played a big role in like steering her away from dogs in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they just wanted an excuse not to let her have a dog. I don't know. But she's definitely over aggressive, and you definitely don't go up to people in public and tell them how to raise their kids, their animals, or other. Anyway, you did the right thing. I've had friends like that in the past. I have one now who I pretty much stopped communicating with. It's probably been almost at least a year and a half, 2 years probably, online. An online only friend that I met. And, it just got to the point where the drama and the constant, it's all about me and poor me, woe is me, everybody's out to get me, why me? And it gets old. I get tired. And, we've all got problems, but when you spend your whole life going, oh my gosh, everything's horrible, everybody's against you, it sucks. It doesn't solve anything. All it does is just keep rehashing the same old stuff. So, yeah, I understand exactly what you were feeling. I think I do anyway. Returning Amazon ebooks for refund after reading. Huh? I posted once, but admittedly didn't clarify detailed enough based on comments, so I'll try again and hopefully make this more clear. I've used the Kindle Unlimited for many years and am familiar with the checkout and return policy. I'm also aware authors who subscribe to KU are paid based on pages read, roughly total month percentage. So anyone who checks out and reads a KU ebook is paying the author. What is a KU ebook? I know what an ebook is. What's KU? I don't know. Anyway, I've become familiar with one particular author as she is very approachable, has a Facebook private group, and responds to her fans. She recently posted a problem she's encountering with an Amazon customer. This customer purchases an ebook, reads it, then returns it for a refund, and moves on to the next book in the series. They've done this with 22 refunds so far. This is not Kindle Unlimited, where the author would be paid. Thus, KU, Kindle Unlimited. Dumbass. Anyway, this is not Kindle Unlimited, where the author would be paid. This is buying an ebook, reading it, and then refunding it. The author loses money from them returning books like this. What kind of an a-hole rips off authors like this? Do they think, it's just Amazon? No, they're taking money from someone's hard work and creativity. So, I totally get it. Owning a retail business, working in retail, even working in construction. Settle down, Twitchy. People will take advantage and try to cut corners and get deals and price breaks and refunds wherever they can. Your profit, your salary, your hard-earned living be damned. Now, I'm not saying I've never returned things for a refund. There are things... Now, there's a difference. If I buy something and I bought it by mistake, I won't even unbox it. Or I realize once I got it, crap, I didn't really need this. I won't even unbox it. I will just send it directly back, get a refund, whatever. If it comes in it's damaged, I will work with them to either get a refund or an exchange or whatever. And half the time, Amazon just says it's not worth paying to send it back, just keep it anyway. Not sure what I'm supposed to do with it because most stuff you can't even use the spare parts, so whatever. Now I'm just filling up my trash can with it. But then there are people, there they go. But then there are people who will eat 3/4 of an entire meal and then talk about how horrible it is and demand a refund, plus maybe a coupon or voucher from the manager before they leave. There are people who will read an ebook and return it, or read a regular book and return it. It's sickening, and I think it's just a bad practice, and honestly, it's theft. If they went to work one day and their boss says, you know what, I know you worked a 4-hour shift yesterday, but I want a refund, so I'm not going to put that in your check this week. I'm pretty sure they would lose their shit. It's a bad mentality. It's a bad way to be. Now, yes, it's their mentality, but it's also the way retailers have set things up, and restaurant chains and so on. Basically, they have adapted this, the customer is always right mentality, which is totally not the saying, for one. The customer is always right in matters of taste and something else, whatever. Anyway, it's not that important, but the customer is not always right, for one. 2, frivolous returns like Walmart, Target, and other stores have not only implemented and put up with for years, but they doubled down and made it so easy for people to, I think I told you a story once. I used to be a bike assembler for a local Walmart as a part-time gig. When things were slow, I would fill in other positions in other parts of the store. Well, one of the things I did once in a while was to bring all the returns back to the area where the big toys, bikes, pools, seasonal stuff, ends up being back by the automotive center. Well, at least that's where it used to be before they rearranged and effed up the whole store. But anyway, and one time I got a return of a pool. And, it's an Intex pool, one of the rubber blow up, the top ring blows up and the rest of the water holds up, I guess the force of hydraulics holds it up. This thing was dripping all over the floor when I got there. The box was mangled. And, you could see when you lifted the top flap that they had just shoved this pool in there. And it was soaking wet and green film all over everything. Now, mind you, while we did have this pool in stock at that current time, it was springtime, late spring. This pool obviously was not bought this spring. It was obviously bought at least a year before, if not 2, and left to sit in somebody's yard. And I guess what their genius idea was to buy a new pool to replace the old pool because it had a leak or whatever, or was just getting too green and they didn't want to clean it. Take it home, dismantle the other pool, drag it off to the side, set up the new pool, and then stuff the old pool back in the new box. I don't get it. That is theft. I don't care how you look at it. If I buy a vacuum cleaner from Walmart and I break it because I dropped it down the cellar stairs, we hang our vacuum on a hook on the back of the cellar door, and sometimes people slam the door too much. Anyway, if I drop it down the basement steps, or I'm, sucking up things that are not meant to be sucked up in a vacuum and it gets all clogged and sticky and weird, and you'd be amazed when people try to vacuum. And then I go buy the same model vacuum from Walmart, come home, dismantle the old vacuum, stick it in the box with the dirt in the cup, mind you, and try to return that. That's theft. I don't give a rat's ass how you spin it. That is straight up theft. I'm not saying Walmart won't take it back. I'm not saying that it can't be done and that it's somehow illegal, but it is morally theft. Right? Next story, right? You want to read this one? I didn't think so. Had a parking dispute with a Karen yesterday. Me, my sister, and my mother are heading to a restaurant. As we approach, we see an open handicap spot that we want. My mother's in a wheelchair. I'm also currently in a leg brace. Across from that spot is another handicap space, occupied by a blue car who's beginning to back out. When they see us coming, they pull back in. Okay, so clearly they were either waiting for us to pass or they were just straightening out. Didn't think anything of it. As soon as we pull into the other spot, the blue car's driver, the Karen, walks over and waits for us to start getting out. And then comes the tirade. We stole her spot. She had been starting to back into it when we just happened along and snatched the space she had so obviously claimed. She has an 80-year-old grandmother in a wheelchair. She needs the spot more than we do. We point out that we had no way of knowing she was about to back in. She says she had her brake lights on. We ask how the F are we supposed to see her brake lights when we're approaching her car from the side. She ignores that and insisted she, the young, healthy, able-bodied Karen, yells at me and my sister for not even looking handicapped. We point out our elderly mother with the wheelchair and my leg brace, and admittedly this is the point where I lose my cool and outright tell her to F off. She storms off with her father and mother trailing behind, the latter giving us a death glare. Oh, and by the way, while her father did have a cane, neither of them were in a wheelchair. The grandmother had already been dropped off and gone inside anyways. Well, first of all, I'm not sure where you're located, but in most places, now, if it's a pull-in handicap spot, which it sounds like this was, you're supposed to pull head in almost every parking space. Now, not everybody follows that, and I know they don't. But technically, you're supposed to pull head in unless it's one of those parallel handicap spots like at the front of Walmarts and certain other stores. But again, how would you know? She pulled back in. Okay, so then you pull around into the spot. And oh, by the way, if you both had placards, Who cares? She still got a spot. And oh, by the way, she could have just backed out, did like a little reverse K-turn kind of thing, and backed into the spot she was in right there. Who the F cares? Why is it so important to back in? And if you both have handicap placards, then you both have just as much right to that space. So as long as you had, somebody handicapped with you, or disabled, or however you want to say it. Now, if you're out running errands using your parents' car with their handicap placard and you're not handicapped or disabled, yeah, that's cheating. Don't do that. I will admit, and I don't do it anymore, but when my dad was alive, he had a placard for my mom's car, and we would both take advantage of it, even if he wasn't with us at the time. She has bad hips and knees, and and a bad back and everything. But anyway, I think one thing always leads to another. My bad back always leads to hip pain and everything else. But so anyway, we would go out to run errands, and if there was an open spot, sometimes we would take it. Shitty thing to do. We don't do it anymore. We don't even have the placard anymore because he died like 4 years ago next month. So there's no need to have it. She could get one legally because of her disabilities, but she refuses to right now. I think she's just in denial and wants to keep the young energy going, if you know what I mean. But yeah, lesson learned. We all make mistakes and do asshole things, but hopefully you learn from them and change. And all those other Karens out there, mind your effing business. If there was no placard on the car or on the tag or anything otherwise, okay, then call the cops. Have them ticketed and be done with it. Then you can stand back and watch and eat your popcorn while you're sitting in your mom's lap in the wheelchair. Who cares? Whatever. Neighbor lady wants to move because of the future neighbor. My neighbor, who's also been a friend of mine for a few years, is very upset that the empty lot across from her house was bought by Habitat for Humanity. She told me that she will move if they really do build a house there. She doesn't want to live across from those types of people. I told her that I knew of one of the families that applied for the house going there, and that they're a really nice family, and she didn't care. She would move regardless. I really hope she does move because it's not fair to the future homeowners of the Habitat house to have to be around people like her. Judgmental. I've slowly distanced myself from her. Being a former construction supervisor for our local Habitat for Humanity chapter, I can see this from both sides of the fence. So, on one hand, you are absolutely correct. You don't know who's moving in there. You can't judge people before you know them or have met them. And, that's not a reason to leave the neighborhood. Or maybe it is, but you don't have to announce it to the world. This is not an airport. You don't need to do, you don't need to announce your departure. Just freaking move. It is what it is. Thanks for joining me today, guys. And remember, if you like handmade soaps, beard products, traditional shave soaps, and all that, check out the website down below. And till the next video, we'll see you.